Good day, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful and beautiful Sunday afternoon. Today is, we entitled it So Sunday. So you want to be a nurse. And we're going to talk about some more tips and things for nursing students, those of you who are nursing students, upcoming nursing students, or thinking about taking this career path. And this is an article that I found. Written by Kathleen Gaines, MSN, RN, BA, and CVC. It was published back in November of 2023, and it's entitled Nursing Career Path: How to Become a Nurse and Advance Your Career. So it may be an interesting article for you to read. It's on nurse.org if you're interested. And it goes into different things, but what I want to focus on today is just what are some things you want to think about when as you're beginning nursing school, and what I found to be important to me that would help you throughout your entire nursing career, throughout your education. And that's a key component, is knowing how to develop those study skills. We talked about study skills before, and how to utilize your nursing education to get you to where you need to be, which is the ultimate goal, is being able to pass that NCLEX exam. Because without it, you can go through 4 years, 6 years, no matter how many years of nursing education. If you don't pass that NCLEX, you are not able to legally practice as a nurse, whether that's a licensed practical nurse or LPN or LVN, or a registered nurse or RN. So clinical judgment and nursing examinations kind of tie in together, and they're very, very important. Um, Dickinson, Harling, and Lassiter, giving credit to them from 2019 in their text, they define clinical judgment as the observed outcome of critical thinking and decision making. So that is your primary focus as you are receiving your nursing education. You need to focus on two things: your clinical judgment, which is your critical thinking, and your decision making, those two things. So as you develop clinical judgment in a nursing school, you're going to develop it through targeted teaching. Targeted teaching is, what is your instructor targeting for that semester? What's the focus? What's the subject? What's the content that they're telling me to learn so I can pass my exam? Now, as you're targeting that part of your learning, you're also going to be focusing on testing. How do I test? How do I study for the test? How do I pass the test? But you also want to focus on assessment. So, assessment is what you're going to be doing throughout your clinical experience: looking, listening, feeling. What things do you notice and assess in your patients? So, in order to develop this sound clinical judgment skill, you need to focus on your clinical judgment, which is your critical thinking and your decision making, and being proficient in and sound in the fundamentals, the foundations of nursing. You want to be proficient in those skills. You want to be competent. So the NCLEX, which NCLEX stands for National Council of Licensure Examination, it requires candidates to demonstrate the ability to use that clinical judgment in the delivery of client care. And now they're using these case studies to kind of paint a picture, to make it very similar to your clinical experience and what you will see in real life on a job. Things that you will actually read through. You will actually be reading records, medical records, and charts, and trying to figure out what's going on with your patient. So the NCSBN, which stands for the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, created an NCSBN clinical judgment measurement model, which is essentially your ADPI. It is the assessment, diagnosis, planning, implementing, and intervening, and evaluating those outcomes. But what they did, those were five things. They took the clinical judgment measurement, and it's consisting of applying these six cognitive skills or processes. One of the skills, which kind of is diagnosis, nursing diagnosis, they broke it up into two. So they come up with six. So you're not only judged on or assessed on those six skills, but you're also assessed on clinical judgment as a whole. And so those are things that will be scored on your NCLEX exam, along with the eight categories that are the parts of the pie. And these parts of the pie are what was normally on the previous test. It was for RNs, it was management of care. For LPNs, it was coordinated care. That was the only thing that was different for the scope of practice. As far as the categories, everything else is pretty much the same. It's your farm, it's your physiological adaptation, your reduction of risk, your safety and infection, your farm, your psychosocial, your health promotion. So all those 8 categories along with these 6 skills. The measurement model also serves as a guide for nursing faculty and for the NCSBN to create these next generation NCLEX or NGN test items. So you as a student, you're going to want to apply those 6 cognitive skills. Go ahead and start becoming familiar with it so that you know how to use that process. You know what it means, and you know when questions are testing you on certain things, when you're doing practice questions, that you understand that process, along with traditional test taking strategies. So start learning those test taking strategies early on in how you're supposed to answer test questions for the NCLEX. Now, those 6 skills are recognizing cues, analyzing cues, prioritizing hypotheses, generating solutions, taking actions, and evaluating outcomes. I do have other videos where I break down each of those. I give just like a general synopsis in the beginning, maybe a question or two, or some videos I just talk about what it is and what it means, and it's just short and quick and to the point. So you want to understand those NGN skills. So the NCJMM, which is the National Council of Boards, their clinical judgment measurement model, and the NGN test type or item type, I call them test types, but they're item types that are presented in the exam. It continues to be developed as they continue their ongoing research. And they're always doing research to determine the best ways to measure clinical judgment. And some of the types of questions that you'll see, the item types that are scored in the exam, will be highlighting. And I did have a nurse, a student that took the exam that said she had highlighting. She had taken the exam. This was prior to me tutoring them. And I asked them about the exam, and I think they said, oh, they had highlighting. So that was a different one. That's one that I don't always talk about, but it is one of the major types of test items on the NCLEX currently. Highlighting, there's the drop down menu where you have 2 or 3 choices and you pick one. There's the drag and drop where you have to drag things up and around. And that drag and drop, they use that drop and drag or drag and drop. They use that with the bow tie where you're dragging certain things to, which one is your condition, which is your action, which is your parameters to monitor. The extended multiple response. We did a multiple response last night. We actually did a matrix multiple choice, which is a little bit different than the multiple response. There is also, so that's a little bit different than the extended multiple response. There's also the matrix grid. And then they've added 2 additional test types. One of them is my favorite, which is the bow tie. I love the bow tie. And then there's also the trend item. So you want to get familiar with those different types of NGN questions that you might see. Types of case studies. Well, there's standalone case studies, which presents a patient scenario at one point in time or multiple points over time. So that's kind of a standalone. The client scenario is going to be followed by one NGN test item that measures one or more of the cognitive skills or processes. The NCSBN indicates that the item types that accompany test alone case studies are going to be like the bow tie. It presents a client scenario at one point in time, or it may even give you a trend of things that are happening, and they'll separate the trend like 7 o'clock, this was happening, 8 o'clock, this was happening, 9 o'clock, this was happening. So it presents a client scenario at multiple points over time. So you have maybe like a bow tie where it just stands alone all in one case study, and you're going to answer according to your options in the bow tie. The unfolding case study, you will have a client scenario that changes over time through multiple phases of care. The unfolding case begins with a 1 to 2 sentence introduction, And then the client situation is going to be presented as part of the medical record for most items. The medical record presented for an unfolding case will have one or more tabs that are accessible for the test taker. So I can go in and look at their um, labs, and then I can click on another tab and look at their vitals, and I can look at another tab for diagnostics, nursing notes, and so forth, vital signs. So the data in this type of client scenario, the data are more comprehensive than the standalone case study as the story unfolds further and further. All six of the cognitive skills are measured in an unfolding case using the NGN test item. And some of the others, you don't get all the skills measured, but if it's an unfolding, it's going to measure all cognitive skills. And that's what we've been doing over the past few weeks. We are currently up to, if you've been able to join any of the webinars, we just finished the Generate Solutions category last night, and we have two more categories to go. We won't be meeting next Saturday, but the week after, which will be the 16th, I believe, of March, we will be discussing take actions and evaluate outcomes. If you are interested in getting some practice on these types of questions, I post them in Google Classroom. Just send me your email. I just have to send you a link to your email to invite you to the class, and you are welcome to join at least one webinar for free. And possibly when we do have free webinars, I just open it up to everyone. There are days that if I don't have a guest speaker, that maybe we will have a charge for it, or if there's like a lot more details that we're getting, that it's worth the cost, and it's a reasonable cost. So you want to get familiar with those types of case studies. The bow tie, like I said, is my favorite. It presents a client scenario at one point in time. You have a trend that presents a client scenario at multiple points in time. These extended multiple response are items allowed. Items will allow the test taker to select one or more answer options at a time, and that depends on the item type presented. Some of them might be a select all that apply. It could be a select N. The N means that they actually give you the number, like only select 3 or only select 4 things. And there's also a multiple response grouping where things go in certain groups. The drag and drop in those questions, it will allow the items allow the test taker to move or place response options into answer spaces. So that will be your drag and drop close, your drag and drop rationale. The drop down menu, which is not a bad one, I like that one too. Items allow the test taker to select options from a drop down list depending on the item type presented. Those are your drop down close and drop down rationale. And we actually did one, I think the previous Saturday, we had a drop down. Highlighting was fairly new to me. I haven't seen that, but I do see do have some questions for highlighting. I just haven't used those that much. But these items allow the test taker to select an answer by actually highlighting predefined words or phrases. So if you're ever able to do questions actually on paper, go through and highlight. That will give you practice on highlighting words or phrases that are specific to maybe the question that they're asking, or what guides you to that answer. Where are the cues? What are you analyzing? So it'll be predefined words or phrases in text or a table. So they call that highlight in text and highlight in table. There's also the matrix grid, which allows the test taker to select one or more of the items, one or more than one answer, depending on the item type presented, from options presented as part of a matrix or grid type of table. So those test items, I almost want to say test types because that's what I call them. They will be matrix multiple choice or a matrix multiple response, which is what we did. Our case study from last night was a matrix multiple response. And we had to put things in I'm just trying to go back and look at this is like an example, matrix multiple choice. We had, I think we only had 2 columns. We had a contraindicated and an indicated, and we had maybe 4 assessment findings, or we actually had 4 plans, things that we would put in our plan of care, what was indicated, what was contraindicated. But here's another example. And the good thing about these is that they give you points for everything you get correct. You don't get points taken away for anything incorrect. All right, so I hope this helps. The NGN test items, they're scored in the new test plan that has been implemented since April of 2023. Some of these NGN item types can be found on different websites. I do highly recommend that if you are a upcoming or starting nursing student, to go ahead and get you a um, NCLEX review book. I like Saunders just because they do go into testing strategies. They do explain those strategies. To me, they're very good on using that to accompany your lessons that you're getting throughout nursing school, and they will help you become familiar with those NGN item types that are on their site. They also have an Evolve site. Um, and you can also go to the ncsbn.org website, and they have some sample questions as well. So you can kind of see what those questions are like. And one of my students who took the NCLEX, she said she went in and did all those sample questions. So that's also a good thing to do. I should actually look at those and probably send those to some of my students. So continue learning about the updates regarding the NGN test type or item types until you are ready to take your exam, because things may change by the time you finish nursing school. But you want to start here, because all they're going to do is build on to your knowledge from here. They're going to build on to their types of questions, because remember, they do have some traditional questions on there, but they also have added these case studies and these next generation NCLEX questions. So in this article, they do give you like some places that you could go to get your education, but they talk about why nursing is an excellent career path, pathways into nursing, a CNA. Some people have been a CNA for a while, and maybe they are thinking about going back to school to become an LPN or an RN. And I like the way they break down what's the difference. And some people decide to become an LPN, and that is it. How to earn an ADN, maybe if you want to do just an associate's for registered nursing, or if you rather go and be and earn a BSN. Cost also is something that will play a part, and then how to advance your career from there in a master's or doctorate degree, and cost also plays a part. And they also give several different. Here's the author. They also give several different courses, programs that are out there. So I think it's a very good article. It's on nurse.org. I think that's interesting to have that on there to for upcoming nurses and nursing students, or if you're getting ready to take your exam and you just want to, see what's going on out there in the world of nursing and how to become a nurse and advance your career. So I hope this message helps you today on this so beautiful Sunday. So you want to be a nurse, watch this video, like, share, and subscribe. Share with your friends, and stay tuned if you would like to have more nursing tips or more tips on how to become a nurse.